In this movie, we'll learn how to add different model views to our drawings. In this case here, I have 17.4-1 opened up, and we want to go ahead and make a couple drawings of this part. So I'm going to click on File, Make Drawing from Part. I'm going to choose that TT template we already defined, click on OK, and you can see by default, it automatically brings in a couple different views based upon that template. If you didn't happen to have these views in there, go ahead and click Delete, and we can start from the beginning. So over here on the right on this flyout, if you click on this one here called View Palette, you can see all the different views that I could bring into the drawing. If I click on top, I can bring that right in. And then SolidWorks automatically turns on the projection view. So I can do some projections here or above. And anywhere you place these views around the original model, it'll automatically do the projection in that format. So I can place one over here, place one above, and that's about all I need. When I'm done with that, hit Escape to turn it off. Now let's drag this over here. And notice if I move the original model around, everything else tracks because those are direct projections. This one projects directly above it, and this one projects directly to the right of it. I cannot move these up and down. I can only move them right and left. Same thing over here. I can't move it right and left. I can move it only up and down. So get those placed how you want and looking pretty good. The next thing I want to do is actually take a look at some of the scale in the drawing. By default here, you can see if I click on one of these, if I come over here to the left, I can see all the standard views. And if I needed to, I could always switch between one or the other and all the other views would automatically change. Or flip back, it's okay. Back to the original one on the top here. So you notice all those views automatically change based upon whatever that standard base view is. I can change how I am actually looking at the parts. By default here, I've got this hidden lines removed turned on. I can turn over here to shaded with edges, and you can kind of see these as you see them in SolidWorks as shaded objects. But I'd caution you to not generally use this in drawings because a lot of times drawings are around for a very long time. They get faxed, they get copied, you get things like that happening to them. And these parts like this will turn into like a big black blob, and it's very hard to see what's actually going on. So I would definitely recommend using hidden lines removed or hidden lines visible so you can see these cuts into the part and you can see through the different parts. Now, if I were to change the base view, all the other views automatically change. If I flip back and I click on any individual view, like this one over here or this one over here, what I can do is then click on individually and just only show hidden lines on that view. So you can pick individually or you can pick the top level view and all the other views will automatically update. Okay, so any one of these views, do that same thing. Same thing down here is if I look a little further, all these are using the sheet scale. So if I wanted to change the size of all these parts, if I right click anywhere on the sheet, if I choose properties, I can then come up here and change the scale of the part. So I can change the scale to 2:1 or 1/2 scale, for instance, and go back, click OK. Notice all the parts went to a smaller scale. It's a little bit harder to see, so you can always go back and go to properties and change this maybe to 2:1. And that will probably be too big, but we'll just take a look. So yeah, those are a little too big. So we have to fit something in here that will make it work. So go back to properties. In this case, 1:1 does seem to work the best way, but you never know. Now over here, you can also individually scale items. So for instance, if you're running out of space in your drawing and you want to make your isometric projection a little bit different scale, I can come over here, instead of using the parent scale, I can use a custom scale and just type it in or choose from one of these. So I can say I want a 1/2 scale and click OK. And notice it gives it a little annotation below there. It says the scale is 1/2. So a nice way to do that. If you need additional space in your drawings, you can add additional sheets as well. So go ahead and click on this little Add Sheet button down here at the bottom, and they'll automatically add a new sheet. And it's going to say, hey, I'm looking for the sheet format. I can't locate it sometimes, but it's going to ask you to find it for you. So we're going to say, hey, I'm going to browse, find that. Notice we have it saved on our desktop, and we have it on exercise files under Chapter 17. And there it is. Click OK, and click OK. So now we can add in more views. Another way to get views into our drawing besides coming over here is to come up here to click on Model View, click on Next. And by the way, before I click on Next, I'm actually going to go back there. Notice I only have one document open right now. If you had multiple documents, it'll all be listed here. And I could choose to add any one of those to this drawing format. Pick the one you want, click on Next, and then choose the view you want to bring in. So in this case here, I'll pick something else like this. And you may want to add some specialty view. In this case here, we don't need any more views because it's a pretty simple part. But I do want to point out some of the other views that are available. Up here at the top, 3 standard views. If I choose that, it just automatically drops in 3 standard views of that part that I have chosen. We've already looked at model view and some of the things we can bring in. Projected view automatically will just turn on whatever these views we have. Auxiliary view, in this case, doesn't really make sense because there's no specialty angles. But if you maybe had a special angle of your part and you need to make a special projection off of one of those angles, this would be the one to choose. Section view allows me to cut the part in half and see what it's going to look like from a slice. So in this case here, I could say I want to do a section view, and I'm going to snap right there and click OK. And notice it slices the part in half and gives you a view of what it's going to look like when I place it on the drawing. Of course, I can move things around, slide things around here, and there's my projection view of that section view. If I want to do a detail view, I can basically draw a circle around a special area of my drawing, and then it's going to place it in a bigger scale somewhere else in the drawing. Breakout section allows me to cut into a certain section of the part to show some interior details. Click OK. And the other couple things we can do here, if we have a long part, we can break it in half. And so it's, for instance, if you had like a long pipe and it was the same cross section the whole way, and you just want to show the length of the pipe, you have to make a really, really small scale to fit this long pipe on your drawing. But what you could do is make it a bigger scale and break that section so you can then bring those two ends together and define it on your drawing a little bit easier. And then same thing with crop view here. If you want to just bring in just a section of a drawing, you can cut away the parts you don't want and only show or highlight one area of the drawing. So a bunch of different options there. Click OK. One other thing we might want to do when we're making drawings is send these files out, for instance, to laser cutting or water jet cutting or to machining or something like that. We're going to send files to vendors. One of the most common ones is going to be sending a DXF or DWG flat pattern to be cut. You can add that individually from the part itself, or you can come over here, click on New, go to the sheet format. In this case here, I don't want any of these borders in my drawing, so I actually want to go over here and right-click and go to Properties, and I want to turn off sheet format. And in fact, I want to go over here and click on Custom Size. Now, depending on the size of your part, you want to adjust the size of this sheet of paper to be a 1-to-1 scale. So if you're making a small part that's only 6 inches by 6 inches, it makes sense to make a sheet that's no more than maybe 8 by 8, so it fits perfectly on the part. However, if you have a part that's 40 inches wide, go ahead and make a drawing sheet that's 48 by 48 or something like that, so the part will be scaled 1-to-1 on that sheet of paper. In this case here, I'm going to make a drawing of a regular sheet of paper. So I'm going to say 11 by 8.5. Click OK, and you can see the scale change. But notice there's one little artifact here that's stuck around. It's the logo for 2 trees. So you can right-click, click on Edit Sheet Format, and just make sure we delete that out from that drawing. Okay, go back to the sheet. In this case here, I'm going to go in and add a model view, and I want to make sure I have a little preview of what it's going to be, and choose the top of the part. There it is, and that's all I want. But I want to make sure that this is scaled 1-to-1. I'm going to come down here, and it's going to say Use Sheet Scale. Make sure that's 1-to-1. And then over here, I want to make sure under Properties, again, that the scale is 1-to-1. If you don't have the scale set correctly, you're going to send out parts for laser cutting or water jet cutting, and they're going to come back the wrong size. You've got parts that are half size or quarter size, and it's not going to work. So you got to make sure, it's very important, scale 1-to-1 anytime you're going to ever send out parts for any type of laser cutting, water jet cutting, machining, anything of that nature. Click OK. You can see this little part. If you have a little note that was there, you can delete that from the drawing. In fact, you generally want to delete any kind of center marks or any extra annotations on your drawing, so you really only have just the part that wants to be cut as you save out the file. Now you have a 1-to-1 drawing, you're ready to save the file. Come up here to File, Save As, and you can drop down, instead of a regular drawing, you can come over here and you can choose any one of these formats. So I recommend either DXF or DWG. You pick one of these, you can come in here under Options, and you can see we've got a bunch of different options and versions we can save out as. Generally, this 2004, 2006 works pretty good. You can change the different types of fonts. You can change a lot of different things here. And then you can also define, do I want to export all the sheets or just only this active one sheet? And I normally choose just that active sheet because you don't want to necessarily save out all the other drawing formats with the sheet formats. You just want this one file that's actually going to be cut. Click OK, and then click on Save. And it's going to save out that DXF file to your file system. And now you can send that file and it's ready to cut. I also wanted to point out, if I actually open up this part right here, here it is. If I want to send this out for machining or some other operation, maybe even 3D printing, I can also save under File, Save As. Instead of a regular part, I can save it as any one of these other file formats. So Parasolids, Step Files, IGES files, STL files, eDrawings, you name it, we can save out to all these types of file formats. Some of these are 2D file formats, some of these are just pictures, but some of them, like an IGES file or a step file, is a 3D solid file. And those are great files to send out to a machine shop so they can actually import that into their CAM software and generate the toolpaths to create the parts. I can also save out .stl files if I want to send a part out to 3D printing. So we have a lot of options here, a lot of file formats we can work with, and a lot of flexibility. When you're happy with one of these formats, I'm going to choose the step format, click on Save, and again, that file is now saved out to your file system as a step format you can then easily send out to a vendor so they have all the data they need to build the part. SolidWorks makes it easy to add views to your drawings by selecting the starting view and the various projections. From there, we'll move into the next movies where we learn about adding dimensions and annotations.